Welcome to the Coffee Day Show, Joe's blog, Reflections of a 96-year-old broadcaster. My guest, as always, the talented Joe Lartey. Good to always hang around with you. I hope you're fine. How has the last week been so far?
Well, it was quite a good week. A few things happened to dampen my spirits, but
Yes.
I think I've recovered sufficiently.
Okay.
This morning, however, still in the process of recovering,
Yes.
the news that I heard that saddened me a lot was a statement made by our former president, John Mahama, on the judiciary. It has saddened me. Saddened me to the extent that I don't even know what to say properly. But I think that was a very serious statement. I was expecting that he would come out with maybe evidence to say, after making that big statement, we had this case, we had a case like this, it showed up, we had a case like this, it showed up, and so on. I'm sure that statement could have been made elsewhere.
So basically, he thinks that he believes that the judges are more of MPP inclination,
right.
and known party people
Right.
have now been made judges as well.
That's right. Then when his government comes into being, they will try to level up. And he was advising the barristers that he was meeting with, that they should, when they come up, they should prepare themselves to be able to level up. You know.
What pains you so much about that statement?
Yeah, because the judiciary is supposed to be right in the middle of our affairs, to dispense judgment, and the country depends on them. The judiciary people, the country depends on them to keep us going, to keep the society going. Once we lose confidence in the judiciary, the whole thing is down. The game will be over, and that would be terrible for the country. That's why I feel so sad. Not that a statement was made, but it was made without the evidence that is necessary to balance it up.
I wonder whether you remember this particular chap last week at the parliamentary committee hearings to probe this leaked tape that purports that there's a plot to oust the Inspector General of Police. One of the witnesses, Commissioner of Police George Alex Mensah, says openly that he's a sympathizer of the UP tradition, and by extension an MPP sympathizer, and this is a serving police officer. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that was rather unfortunate. He too shouldn't have said that in public, because again, we depend on the police to be in the middle, to be in the center of affairs, and not to be this way or that way. Even if they have a preference, that preference should not be known to the public, because once it is known, their position as the organization in the middle is affected. So you can't trust the police. If you can't trust the police and you can't trust the judiciary, then where do we stand? Then the situation in the country is jeopardized seriously. We should be able to trust the police to a certain level. We should be able to trust the judiciary. I wouldn't say 100%, but sufficiently, so that we keep the balance of society going. Otherwise, it's terrible.
Otherwise, it's terrible. We need to trust the police and the judiciary, says Mr. Joe Lartey.
These are very important, organizations of state.
I wonder what you think about the Food and Drugs Authority. Do you trust them? Because you've been following them also, right?
Yeah, I've been following them.
What did you hear about them?
Recently, I've been a bit worried about the amount of advertisement that goes on our television stations, radio stations, and so on. It appears it's getting a little out of hand. There should be a bit of control.
What kind of things are you hearing on the airwaves?
The way they present the adverts, the extent to which the adverts go, and at a point I was thinking, these organizations like clinics and drug bodies and so on, they're doing the work of doctors. They're taking the doctor's job from them. The way they present it. I think in the past, in the distant past, advertisements in medical things were not allowed.
And it's supposed to be so even till now.
Then who is allowing it to go to the dogs? Well, now we hear the Food and Drugs Board, they say they're going to be a little more watchful. They're going to be a little more efficient, maybe.
On the ball.
Yeah, to be a bit more on the ball, so that what I'm afraid of will be rectified. I hope so.
We hope so too. Safety is of utmost concern.
Yeah.
Now, for something that may make you smile, it all has to do with salt in Adan.
Salt in Adan.
What's going on there? What was the story?
I think the inauguration of a factory to manufacture salt. The salt is already there. They will make it. They will improve on it, work on it, and. Make it more usable. Take it from the raw state and maybe add something to it or polish it up, so that those who use salt will be sure that they're using the right thing. I mean, that sort of thing. And I was happy that the head of state, Nana Akufo-Addo, was there to inaugurate it, and I think it's a good idea. It's a very good idea. Adan, people say Adan, they are not NPP minded, they're not this and they're not that. But so the presence of Nana Akufo-Addo in that inaugural ceremony, I think will maybe temper things a little bit, And I think it's a good idea. It's a very good idea. It's a private development.
Yes.
But it comes under one district, one factory, that kind of thing. Yes. And I think it's a good thing. Very good.
So that made you smile?
Well, a little bit.
You're listening?
The other day, maybe I was a bit too hard on the other people. So I think it's balancing.
It's balancing, and balance is important in life. Yeah. In case you just joined, this is Joe's blog, Reflections of a 96-year-old Broadcaster. It's Joe Lartey on the Coffee Day Show. Now, from Ghana, let's step outside of our shores to a man who is in trouble, and you've been following him for quite some time now, former President of the United States.
Yeah.
Mr. Donald Trump.
Yeah, Trump.
What do you make of his woes?
Well, those of his people,
yes,
his followers, some of them went wild in January, I think January 6th or so.
Yeah, 2021.
Right, and they moved into, they more or less staged a coup. Some of them, I think 3 of them, have been sentenced to prison terms. And the comment is that the terms were quite lengthy. And, it shows that the government of the day, or United States of America itself, is not taking what happened lying down. They're looking at it very seriously. And what I think, or what I reflect on more, is what's going to happen to the big man himself.
Because he's facing countless charges.
Yes, he's got a number of charges, and at the same time, he's trying to go back into the White House as president, and the race to the presidency has started. They have about a year to go, like Ghana. But he's facing the law courts. Each time he's shouting, "Which hunt? Which hunt?" Well, this will have to be determined along the line.
Were you shocked to find out that Americans dared to actually stage a coup back in 2021 when it happened?
I was more than shocked. I was more than shocked. In fact, I was leveled because most of us have been looking to America as the home of democracy. You know, with Britain on the other side, people went from Britain, set and established America, and to think that an attempt could be made for a coup in America, that wasn't happy enough, and it's been in my mind. That's one of the reasons why I've been paying a lot of attention to what is happening to Trump, the Trump affair.
Just as an aside, did you ever get the chance to visit the United States of America?
Yes, I had a chance to go there. 64 thereabouts. No, 84 thereabouts. And
where did you go? Which city? What took you there?
I went on a visit. I have a boy there some time ago, and I went to visit him. And
what was it like? Which city did you go to?
I was in New York.
The Big Apple?
Yeah, mostly in New York. I traveled around a bit, but I spent most of the time in New York.
That must have been a big contrast, because in '84 things were quite tough in Ghana in '84.
Yeah.
And then you went off to America. What struck you most about your trip to America in '84?
Well, it was normal. We flew. That airline is no longer.
Pan Am?
No, the other one.
Ghana Airways?
No.
Alitalia?
No. I forgot.
Not British Airways. British Airways is still around.
Not British Airways. It was a very big airline.
British?
No.
Okay.
I think it's
Swiss Air.
Swiss Air. I went Swiss Air. I went by Swiss Air. I was impressed with the performance of the staff on board. Very highly impressed the way they treated me, and well, America was okay at the time. Right now, America is seriously divided. Seriously divided.
On what lines?
Not maybe on political lines. You have the Republicans, the Republicans on one side, and the Democrats.
Is it a bit like Ghana?
Not quite like Ghana, but maybe they are beginning to work towards what Ghana is. But the Ghana situation should be very carefully looked at. We should be very carefully examined. We should take it seriously. It shouldn't deteriorate to the extent that it will show in everything we do. Go to school, NPP, NDC. Go to the doctor, and NPP, NDC. That would be too much, And sometimes, on reflection, sometimes I feel the party system is not good for us. That's one of the things I think of. I reflect on that. Is maybe the party system is not quite suitable for our temperament.
If that were the case, what would be your alternative?
There have been times when we were considering sort of, consultative. How should I put it?
Like the Unigov system that Achampong wanted to bring?
Not quite to the Unigov system. It can still be all civilian. But it should be the type of thing we do with the chiefs. The chieftaincy system. How are decisions taken? The way they do it. Maybe that would be more effective as far as because the party thing is it's not very safe. maybe, and I've been reflecting on that, the party system is what it is and what it is becoming, mostly because there's too much attachment to well-being, prosperity, well-being. Once you are in government, your fortune changes. When you are out of government, you struggle. You go into government and you are seen in a different light altogether. Within a very short time, you can command 2, 3, 4 cars. You can, we've attached well-being, fortune. We've attached too much of the things of the earth to the party system.
So we should detach ourselves from those things more.
It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be. I think what we should consider, our constitution. There are aspects of the constitution that should be looked at, so that it will dampen whatever evils we have in the party system. We should take another look at our constitution, so that it will level the situation a little bit.
Would you like to see chiefs playing a more active role in the governance of the country on the national level?
I think they are playing a role already, not very much. But there's some of the chiefs. I mean, when we come to talk about the evils of a party system, some of the chiefs are already within the,
so neck deep in it.
Very neck deep in it. It means the chiefs, if they go into government, they should discard the idea of party.
Do you fear for a coup d'etat in Ghana?
I have some amount of fear, but not very much.
Because I was listening to a former aviation minister of Nigeria, and he says, listen, Ghana and Nigeria, it's virtually impossible to have a coup. We have civilian elected governments who know their terms of office, rule of law is working. He doesn't think that Ghana can go the way of all the other West African, largely Francophone countries in terms of coup d'etat.
I think that's a very too hopeful an outlook on the state of affairs, because Ghana had its first coup in '66. I'm sure we realized what a coup can do for a country. Then we had another one in '72. There was one in between that failed, the Arthur, Then we had the Achampon one in '72. Achampon tried to go the way of Nkrumah a little bit. He introduced certain, I mean, the one that was, there was one connected with food.
Operation Feed Yourself.
Operation Feed Yourself. And it tended to be working. But somewhere along the line, the whole thing, we had SM1, SM2.
SMC, yes.
Yeah, and
Supreme Military Council 1, Supreme Military Council 2.
And then there was opposition to the union government. At the beginning, the union government looked like the thing. It looked like very attractive. But, well, somehow the union government never came on. And then we had 31st December.
Even before that, June 4th, 79.
June 4th. That was an uprising.
Yes, 15th May, June 4th.
Then we had Rawlings.
Yes, 37.
And what did Rawlings do? Well, he did a few things. Some things that were very good, some things that were not so good. And now we are down in the civilian thing. I think the possibility of a coup in Ghana, the way I look at it, I think is fairly remote. but it's not impossible.
So we shouldn't be too smug in our...
Yeah, we have, whatever, we should be looking at what brought the coup in the countries that we have in mind. What brought the coup? Most of them, people in power wanted to extend their power beyond the duration, maybe beyond the constitution, and so on. Then poverty among the people on the ground, and so on. I mean, so we should be studying.
So we should be studying what is happening around, so we don't fall into the trap.
We fall into the trap. We don't fall into the trap that they are falling into.
So, talking about lessons from other people, I mean, we have this African proverb that if your beard is on fire, fetch a bucket of water to be ready. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. So, Guinea fell to a coup. Mali fell to a coup. Burkina Faso fell to a coup. Sudan fell to a coup. Niger fell to a coup. And just recently, last week, Gabon joined this not so illustrious list of countries. I mean, what do you make of the Gabon coup? What do you make of the President Ali Bongo asking for people to make noise to come to his aid? What did you think of that?
They should have been more careful in their dealings as leaders of a country. That's flat. They should have been more careful. I mean, Gabon, for instance, is a very rich country. They have a lot of oil, and but for somebody to stay in power for 60 years,
one family over 50 years,
I keep asking, don't they get tired? Don't they get tired? Why do they want to remain there all the time? They just want to enjoy and
Is it linked to your theory of people coming into politics, party politics, which is based on prosperity? So even if it's a military government and it becomes turned into a civilian administration, it's all about prosperity.
Prosperity. Most of the coups that I know that we have seen, soldiers have been moved by this chasing of prosperity. They think they've been excluded from enjoying the fruits of the land. The civilians are enjoying it, they are not having it. You remember, a speech was made by Achampo when he took power. He said the few things that they were enjoying had also been taken away from them.
The few amenities.
So is this element of well-being? It's one of the leading reasons for people staging a coup. They want to get that and also enjoy.
If President Ali Bongo were to materialize in front of you right now, what would you be telling him?
I'll tell him, fella, you should have thought twice, staying there for such a long time. I would have said so to him, because I mean, your country is fairly rich, but there's news around. I've not been there before. I've not been to but there's news around that your group, those of you who are in power, are very rich. You and your family, your relations, very rich, and the rest of the people very poor, very, very poor. That shouldn't be the case.
What would you tell Ghanaian youth who look around Africa and they see these coups happening and they wish that Ghana should also join the league? I mean, because if you look around, these coup makers, when they come into power, they get a lot of support. You have a lot of young people supporting them. At the beginning.
And then as matters develop, they lose their support. People realize that after all, even the army people or the military, they are the same as the civilians they ousted. I hope you realize that.
I do. So what's your advice to the young, and then what's your advice to the leaders?
Our leaders, as I said earlier, they should look at what's happening outside Ghana. The mistakes the people are making to bring coups on top of them, and then they should avoid those factors.
And then to the young, what do you say?
And then to the young should be temperate in their behavior in their utterances and in their outlooks. They should stop, because I'm convinced the coups have not been very fruitful. They've not been so fruitful. They look attractive when you are not in it. But when you get into it, after a while you find that maybe it's even worse than the civilian administration.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a word of caution to the leaders and the young.
Yeah.
Let's end this interview on a fiery note, literally, because you were following the news last week about some burning buildings in South Africa. Tell me, what?
Johannesburg.
Yes.
Johannesburg is said to be the city of gold.
Yes.
In the past. It's no longer the city of gold. The fire broke out in a 5-story, what they call hijack building, and I think the government of the area has lost control in the building. Electricity is not there all over. Nothing is. There's no kind of proper administration.
It's mainly immigrants living in that building, right?
Immigrants are there, and some criminals are there. It looks like a lawless edifice, you know, and somebody may carelessly have caused the outbreak of fire, and more than 90 people have died. It's pathetic.
What lessons can we learn from that fire that happened in South Africa for us here in Ghana and all around the world?
I think we should learn to be very conscious of preventing fire. We shouldn't just live until there's an outbreak. We've had a few outbreaks of fire in Ghana, and the fire service has been moving around educating people as to what to do to prevent fire outbreaks, and I think that's a very good step forward. In
your time as an active journalist, did you ever cover any big fires?
No, I can't remember. Today I can't remember I ever covered a case where a fire has broken. But we should be very careful.
Yeah. May those souls rest in peace, the perished people.
Yeah, as citizens we should all be very careful, very careful to prevent the outbreak of fire. Because when I was younger, it's very interesting. In my early days, in those days, there was this talk around that God destroyed the world with water. The second time he's going to do it, he will do it with fire. He will destroy the world with fire. You see, and of late, fire outbreaks almost all over the place. Canada, here, there, California, all over. So sometimes but there we are. We should be careful.
We should be careful, says Mr. Joe Lartey, 96-year-old broadcaster, still going strong. Anything sporting from the sporting world that caught your attention this weekend? Because I must always go back to what people know you for in terms of sports.
There was trouble in Spain. Women's football.
Yes, the World Cup. Spain
won the cup.
Yeah.
And in the midst of a jubilation, very big jubilation, somebody made a mistake.
Yeah, the FA president of Spain.
Right. And he went and kissed one of the players.
Yes.
And they said, well, it was bad. They said he should resign.
He's refused, although FIFA has now suspended him.
Yeah, but I mean, he can't just go on indefinitely. He's got to step down.
Did you hear about his mother? His mother went on hunger strike.
Went on hunger strike. And I think she's reported not be feeling well.
Yes, yeah.
To move to hospital and so on. So, in the midst of life, we are in death. We should be very careful. That's all.
And be careful who you kiss as well, right?
Yeah. Africans is kissing part of our expressions. I don't think so.
Well, I should ask you. You've been around on this African continent far longer than me.
Kissing is not part of the things we practice in expressing love. We've learned it from the white people, and not even now, not many people glorify kissing. with all these pandemics and things around, you've got to think twice
before you make that case. It's been
maybe in Spain they don't have a good place for kissing. Maybe we don't know their culture because they've taken the matter very seriously.
Did it surprise you?
More, yeah, it's a little more surprising. It's more serious than the ordinary person will think of.
Mr. Lartey always says it's a real pleasure speaking with you, and I always look forward to having to chat with you as you give me your very clear and lucid recollections. I asked another elderly gentleman recently what accounted for his very clear memory. He's in his mid-80s and he remembers things from 60, 70 years ago. Why is your memory so sharp? I'm just curious.
It's because I keep it working all the time. You see, I read a lot, I listen to radio, I watch television, and in nature, any part of a human body, once it is commissioned out of work, begins to deteriorate. They use the word atrophy. It begins to atrophy. So if you don't want to deteriorate to the extent that you're useless, keep your brain working all the time in various ways. Then you can have a good memory even in old age.
Very, very good advice. Keep your brain working all the time. Let me ask engage your brain.
Yeah.
Very final question. What is your earliest memory? You are 96 now.
Yeah.
What is the thing that you can remember farthest from today?
I remember one day, I always remember it. I remember a day I nearly committed suicide. I was around 11. And I was in the house at Coligono. I was there alone with my dad. My mother had traveled out of the place. And there's a way, the way the building is a chamber here, a hall in between, and another chamber. And if you lose the key to one of the chambers from outside, then you can't enter the building. You can't. And this happened to me. I lost the key to one of the chambers got missing. I was outside, but I wanted to go in. The iron bars in the window have been laid horizontally. So something occurred to me. I could pass my body in between two of them and then land in the. And I tried it. My body went through the two bars up to my chin, and it couldn't go anymore. So I realized I was going to die. So what I did was I dug my heels into the wall and heaped, and then I flew out of like a lizard. I landed on the ground, and I got up and was looking around whether anybody was out. I nearly
died.
My father would have come from outside to see his son dangling
between the bars like a dead lizard.
That accident, I call it an accident.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. Never.
Thank you for remembering it. This must have happened in 1938, 2 years before my father was born.
There's another thing that I remember very well, very, very well. I had gone to the beach to commit something to memory, Coligono. And then, as I was rolling and repeating the thing up and down, I noticed that the waves were becoming boisterous. So I decided to run away from the beach. Just as I was going to move, I noticed on the horizon, a huge star, multicolored, huge star, rising from the sea, going like this, and then back into the sea. It was very frightful. So I ran to the house, We're not far from the beach. As soon as I got to the house, the earthquake, 1938.
Wow!
Yeah, the place shook.
So that was like a sign before the earthquake.
I'll never forget that experience, never. But I've not told it to many people. And I keep wondering whether some other person or some other persons saw that thing.
A huge star,
A huge star with a tail, multicolored, twinkling, came out of the sea and then went like this back into the sea. I saw it clearly. As soon as I arrived in the house, the
earthquake happened.
Yeah.
What was it like living through an earthquake?
Oh, a lot of problems. And Ghana was not very developed at the time, and it wasn't a very easy thing to experience. It wasn't. It rained heavily right through. The Korle Lagoon was, and people were using canoe to cross it. Canoe to cross the Korle Lagoon. That was long ago.
What was the extent of damage during that earthquake?
Not very much. I was very young. I was around 11, 12. So what I remember most was as a result of the earthquake, they started building the Mambrobi estate. At the time, two rooms in each unit, and you paid the 7 seat. We use the English
shillings and pounds and pence.
7 shillings and 6 pence or so for the 2 rooms in those days, and we were all gone.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed.
Yeah, you do a bit of some editing in past.
Yes, indeed. I know I've enjoyed this. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much, and keep listening out for Joe's blog, Reflections of a 96-year-old broadcaster, right here on the Kafui Day Show. My name is Kafui Day, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, taking all the trouble to come. Thank you.